Namaskar and welcome to day 32 of our Ramayana Satsanga. Lakshmೀನಾಥ ಸಮಾರಂಭಾಂ ನಾಥಯಾಮುನ ಮಧ್ಯಮಾಂ ಅಸ್ಮದಾಚಾರ್ಯ ಪರ್ಯಂತಾಂ ವಂದೇ ಗುರುಪರಂಪರಾಂ ಯೋ ನಿತ್ಯಮಚ್ಯುತ ಪದಾಂಬುಜಯುಗ್ಮರುಗ್ಮ ವ್ಯಾಮೋಹತಸ್ತದಿತರಾಣಿ ತೃಣಾಯ ಮೇನೆ ಅಸ್ಮದ್ಗುರೋರ್ಭಗವತೋಸ್ಯ ದಯೈಕಸಿಂಧೋಃ ರಾಮಾನುಜಸ್ಯ ಚರಣೌ ಶರಣಂ ಪ್ರಪದ್ಯೆ आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम् यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकं कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् वेदवेद्ये परे पुंसि जाते दशरथात्मजे वेदप्राचेत सादासीत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना. With prayers at the lotus feet of Sri Ramachandra and Acharyas, let us see what we have to take up today. So we saw in yesterday's satsang how Rama and Lakshmana met Shabari. She offered them fruits. They accepted that happily. And then she went on her path towards moksha. Now, next, as told by Kabanda, Rama and Lakshmana come out of that ashram and they are walking past the Pampa Sarovara and they go towards this Rishyamukha hill where they've been told that Sugriva, the Vanara, is there in that place. Now, as they are coming closer, on top of that hill, Sugriva is sitting with other 3 or 4 Vanaras and seeing them, he's scared now that he thinks, oh, Vali has sent these people. Now there is a curse that Vali cannot enter the Rishyamukha Parvata. That is why Sugriva has chosen that place to hide. Now Sugriva is worried that this Vali, who is actually his older brother, but who has become his enemy now, so he thinks that Vali has sent these people. So he decides that he must find out who are these people. So he sends his minister. And who is the minister of Sugriva? It is none other than Hanuman, Anjaneya. So he sends this Hanuman, he tells him, go and find out who are those people, why have they come here, see how their behavior is, and come and report to me. So what Hanuman does is, he is a Vanara, but then he takes on the form of a sannyasi. And he goes to that place where Rama and Lakshmana are coming, and he meets them. He speaks to them. He asks them, you are so radiant and tejasvi. You are having all these bow and arrow and all these weapons with you as if you are Kshatriyas, but then you are not dressed like Kshatriyas. You are dressed like tapasvis. So what is this? Who are you? What is the purpose? Why have you come into this forest? Why are you roaming around in this place? They ask. He asks them. So the minute he asks that, he says, they don't reply anything. They are just listening to what all he's telling. And looking at the strong shoulders of Rama, this Hanuman says, Ayatacha suvrittacha bahavaha parigopamaha sarvabhushana bhusharhaha kimartham nab vibhushitaha. Your hands are so lengthy, your shoulders are rounded and they are like the clubs, and your arms and shoulders are fit for decoration with every kind of ornament. Then why is it that you have not decorated this? Why have you not adorned your shoulders and arms with ornaments? He asks. So here the acharyas tell us that this Hanuman, the way in which he is using these words, right, the choice of words, it indicates that he has more than 2 arms. Rama has more than 2 arms. So if somebody is talking about arm in singular, they would say bahu. If they say they want to say 2 arms, they will say bahu. And then when they say bahavaha, that it refers to plural, many arms. So why is Hanuman using this wrong grammar? We know that Hanuman is revered and respected as being a Navavyakarana Pandita. He is then expert in grammar. Then is it possible that he will make a grammar mistake? No. Here the acharyas say that because this Hanuman is actually a bhakta of the Lord, he was able to see Rama with 4 arms. To him, that Rama standing there in front was not looking like Rama with like a human being with 2 arms. He could actually see the 4 arms of Rama as if he is Narayana himself, holding the bow, the arrow, the Shankha, Chakra, the Gada, the Padma, everything like that. He felt he could see that. And that is why this usage of language by Hanuman like that. That's why he is saying arms in plural. Then also the Acharyas explained that see what he is asking. He's saying your arms are fit to be adorned. And why have you not decorated your arms? So, in other words, actually, all the great bhaktas of the Lord, they always have this feeling that they are worried that something bad will happen to the Lord. So, this Hanuman, what is this feeling that he is expressing? He feels that, oh, these arms of the Lord are so beautiful. If somebody looks at them like that, then there will be drishti, there will be evil eye that they will cast on the Lord. So he doesn't want that to happen. And with that fear that something bad should not happen, that is why he is asking, why have you not put on ornaments? Because according to what acharyas tell, when the Lord is decked up with ornaments, it is not to make him look more beautiful. We human beings, we wear ornaments to enhance our beauty. But the Lord's form is so beautiful as it is. And because somebody should not see that beautiful form and he should not have drishti, so they put ornaments on the Lord to hide that beauty of the Lord. So that is why this Hanuman is worried that why are you not decorated? Why are you left yourself undecorated like this? Why are your shoulders and arms bare like this? He's asking. Now, listening to the way in which this Hanuman is talking, Rama is amazed. And in that amazement, he doesn't know what to say. And he realizes this person cannot be a sannyasi because no ordinary sannyasi will talk like this. He is definitely somebody who is very learned. He is somebody who knows all the Vedas. He is somebody who is an expert in grammar. He is somebody who is having an expertise in the skill of communication. In fact, there are many places where people talk about what Rama described and understood from Hanuman's speech, how it is a master class in communication skills. Maybe some other time, if we have time, we will look at that. Right now, our aspect is not on that. We are not paying attention to that aspect. So, anyway, now Hanuman has talked so much, right? And still, Rama and Lakshmana are not saying anything in return. They are just silently listening to him. So, Hanuman feels that what is this? They are not talking. And then he is forced. He feels like he has come in the form of a sannyasi, but now he reveals his true identity. He says, I am a Vanara, I am the Mantri of Sugriva, and Sugriva is there in the Rishamukha Parvata. And he tells the whole story of how Sugriva lost his kingdom, lost his wife, how his brother Vali kicked him out from there, grabbed his wife also, and now Sugriva is in hiding in that place. So, hearing all this, as he tells all these things, now Rama realizes, okay, this Hanuman is the mantri, he is the minister of the same Sugriva whom we have come searching. So then Rama tells Lakshmana, he says, oh Lakshmana, you tell Hanuman, you introduce us to him. And he seems to have understood that what is my rahasya. Anyway, you talk to him and you tell him. So in fact, Rama is so pleased with the way Hanuman has spoken that he actually praises all that. As Lakshmana is about to start talking, Rama says, just wait, Lakshmana. And he praises the qualities of Hanuman which he has observed in his communication. And then he tells Lakshmana, okay, now you tell him who we are and what is the thing. So then this Lakshmana replies and he says, Sharanyah sarva bhutanam pituh nirdesha paragaha ज्येष्ठो दशरथस्य अयं पुत्राणां गुणवत्तरः राजलक्षणसंयुक्तः संयुक्तो राज्यसम्पदा राजात् भ्रष्टो मया वस्तुं वने सार्धम् इह आगतः. He tells this person, this is Rama. He is Sharanyah Sarva Bhutanam. He is the protector of all beings. He is the one who follows his father's directions always. He is the eldest of the sons of the Dasharatha. He has all the greatest virtues and qualities, and he had everything which made him the right fit to be a king. But he is deprived of the kingdom and he has come to this forest, and I have come along with him. I have followed him into the forest. So, as he tells all this and tells the whole story, again, Lakshmana also starts narrating right from the point that Dasharatha was ruling Ayodhya. He didn't have children. He did Putra Kameshti Yaga. The whole thing he talks. And until this point where they have lost Sita and they are roaming around searching for Sita. So then Hanuman says, okay, fine, you have told about your brother. What about you? Who are you? Then Lakshmana says, Ahamasya avaro bhrata gunaidasyam upagataha कृतज्ञस्य बहुज्ञस्य Lakshmano nama namataha. Lakshmana says, again, with that attitude of being a servant, I am, by people's opinion or by my brother's opinion, he considers me his younger brother. But as per my opinion, I am his servant by name. I am named as Lakshmana. And seeing the Seva Bhava of Lakshmana, it is told by our Acharyas that Hanuman also gets motivated. He feels, what a great servant of the Lord he is. I should also become like this. I should also be a Dasa like Lakshmana. And that is the kindling point for Hanuman to express his bhakti for the Lord. Now, further, Lakshmana explains all that about Sita being taken away by Ravana, that they want to get help from Sugriva to find her. Kabanda told us all this, and so on. Now, hearing all this, Hanuman is very happy. He is relieved also on behalf of Sugriva that they are not enemies, but they are friends who have come for a good friendship with Sugriva. So now he takes on his original form as a Vanara. He sheds that disguise. He makes Rama and Lakshmana sit on his shoulders, and he jumps and flies up to the top of the Rishyamukha Parvata where Sugriva is waiting. And there he introduces them to Sugriva. Then he tells whatever they have explained to him, he narrates that to Sugriva. And then he advises Sugriva that they have come in friendship, so we must accept that hand of friendship which they have extended to us. And there, on top of that hill, with Agni as Sakshi, Rama and Sugriva take a vow of friendship. Now, here at this moment, when they are taking that vow of friendship in front of Agni, Valmiki Rishi says, Sita Kapindra Kshanada Charanam Rajiva Hema Jwalanopamanani Sugriva Rama Pranaya Prasange Vamani Netrani Samam Sfuranti. During this friendly conversation between Rama and Sugriva, the left eyes of three people, the left eye of Sita, the left eye of Vali, and the left eye of Ravana began to flutter. And Valmiki compares the eyes of Sita with the eyes of lotuses. With the lotuses, they are as beautiful as the lotus eyes. Vali's eyes are said to be yellow in color, just like monkeys have yellow eyes. Vali's eyes are yellow, and the eyes of Ravana are like fireballs because they are emitting fire, right? So during that conversation, at that point when Sugriva and Rama shake hands and take this pratigna that they will be each other's friends and they will help each other in whatever pursuits they are having. At that point, the left eye of Sita, the left eye of Vali, and the left eye of Ravana began to flutter. Here the Acharyas explain that this fluttering of the eyes, there is a science which studies different kinds of, omens and indications. That is called Nimitta Shastra. So this, according to that Nimitta Shastra, this fluttering of the left eyes, it is considered auspicious for women. But fluttering of the left eyes is inauspicious for men. So the minute the left eye of Sita fluttered, it is an auspicious moment for her, because now that Rama and Sugriva have become friends, they are going to together make efforts and they will come and rescue her. But what about Bali and Ravana? For them, left eyes have fluttered. So for men, when the left eye flutters, it is totally inauspicious. And that, the Acharyas say, is an indication that for them now bad times have come. Something bad is going to happen to both of them, to both Vali and Ravana. And that is because Rama has now solidified his pact. He has made firm the pathway for his promise that he is going to eliminate adharma from the earth. So this is what the Acharyas explain. Now, today's story part is up to here. What is it that we can learn from these things? Already I mentioned that when Hanuman is saying that, why are you not decorated with ornaments? He's asking Rama. Just like parents will want to cover up their child, you must have noticed many times that if there is a small child and even for a little while, if you have to like change the clothes or something, the elderly people, they don't like, they will say immediately cover the child, don't leave it naked like that, don't allow it to be without clothes for a very long time. Why? Because they are scared somebody will see the beauty of the child and there will be drishti, there will be the evil eye which is cast on that child, and that will lead to damaging consequences. Like that, Hanuman is worried that why is this Rama not adorning his shoulders and arms? He's so beautiful. If somebody sees this beauty of his, something bad may happen to him. Like that. Now, when we feel for our child, it is as parents, we have that Vatsalya Bhava towards our child, so we feel that. But real bhaktas, those who are true bhaktas of the Lord, they are not seeing at that moment, they are not seeing the Lord as being omnipotent, as being the most powerful being in the world. If the Lord, when the Lord is omnipotent, he definitely has the ability to protect himself, right? Can anything ever happen to the Lord? Can somebody do drishti for the Lord? They cannot. But these people, in their love for the Lord, they are just like parents fretting over their child. So that is why this Hanuman feels that, oh, the Lord's beauty is so much. Why has he not put ornaments to hide that beauty? Like that he's feeling. Okay. Then I said that Rama praises Hanuman. This Rama himself has been called by Valmiki as Vagmi Shriman. He's somebody who is an expert in speech, right? And what is so great of Rama's oratory capability? Actually, Valmiki has described that previously. He is called Rama Purva Bhashi. Purva Bhashi means somebody who talks first, somebody who doesn't hesitate to initiate a conversation. At the same time, although he initiates the conversation, he starts the talk, and when other people are talking, he waits for them to complete what they are saying without interrupting them in the middle. He will talk, and then when the other people are talking, he does not interrupt in the middle. He waits with patience to let them have their complete say. Then Rama is also called as Manju Bhashi. He talks slowly at the right speed, at the right pace. It is very pleasant to hear him talk. Rama is also called Mridu Bhashi. He talks softly. He does not raise his voice more than what is required. Very softly and sweetly he talks. Then he is also called Priya Bhashi. He talks with compassion. He always talks with kindness. And of course, we know that Rama is always also uh, the one who speaks the truth. Always he is speaking the truth. That, of course, is there. So, this Rama, who has all these qualities of being a great orator, of being someone who speaks very well, who is an expert in speech, he is praising the communication skill of Hanuman. So, you can imagine how great is the skill of Hanuman in communication, in talking. And actually, when Rama is noticing this quality of Hanuman, the Acharyas say that already he has identified that this person is going to be crucial to my task of finding Sita. As we know, Hanuman was sent as the messenger. He flew across the ocean and went to Sita to convey the message from Rama, isn't it? So at this very moment of the very first meeting, Rama has identified that special capability which is there in Hanuman, which is going to make him an asset to his mission. Now, in fact, when Rama is praising this Hanuman, at one point of time he asks Lakshmana, see the way he is talking. Only somebody who is an expert in the Vedas can talk like that. Only somebody who is having so much knowledge of grammar can talk like that. In fact, I'm wondering, is he an incarnation of Brahma or is he an incarnation of Shiva? Like that, he says. So here the Acharyas comment in a humorous way that he is only asking whether he is incarnation of Brahma or Shiva. He is not saying incarnation of Vishnu because he knows that he himself is incarnation of Vishnu, isn't it? And in fact, we know that Hanuman is called as one of the avatars of Rudra, of Shiva. So Rama is correct in his estimate that this Hanuman is an incarnation of some other greater being. Now, the point where we saw that Rama, when Hanuman asks all those questions, they don't reply. And then Hanuman tells who he is and he wants to know more about them. At that point of time, Rama did not himself reply. He told Lakshmana that you talk, isn't it? So, what is the reason for this? One way the acharyas say that it is protocol. Hanuman has come as the messenger. He is the mantri. He is the minister of Sugriva. So when one king, when one person sends his mantri to talk, then this person who is receiving the message, that king should not talk. His mantri should talk. So that is the protocol. So here, since Hanuman is talking and he has come on behalf of Sugriva, Rama is not directly talking back to him, but telling Lakshmana, because Lakshmana is like mantri for Rama. So he's asking Lakshmana to reply. Now, if it had been just an ordinary bhakta of the Lord, then the Lord is not bothered about all these protocols. He will talk to anybody and everybody. But when this is a proper, official kind of communication, If Sugriva had come, Rama would have talked himself. But since Hanuman has come with the message, then Rama is telling Lakshmana that you talk. Also, very beautifully, the Acharyas explain here that this Hanuman was talking so beautifully. So Rama was so struck and amazed by his beautiful speech that Rama felt, I can't do justice to reply to this man. Now, this Lakshmana is avatar of Adishesha. We know that, isn't it? We've talked about this before. And Adishesha has 1,000 heads. In each head, there is a mouth, and in each mouth there are two tongues. So Lakshmana, as his Adishesha form, has 2,000 tongues. So somebody who has 2,000 tongues is definitely going to explain better than me who has just one tongue. That was the bhava of Rama, and that is why they say humorously that he told Lakshmana that you talk and explain whatever Hanuman is asking. Then we saw again here in this case that Lakshmana is expressing, he is introducing himself as the Dasa of Rama. He is more interested in being called Rama Dasa than in being called Rama Bhrata, isn't it? So he is telling that according to Rama, I am his brother. According to people in this world, I am the brother. But according to me, in my opinion, I am his servant. That is what Lakshmana says. And that is exactly what Swami Ramanuja defines as a servant or someone whom is called as a Seshi. In the text called as Vedanta Sangraha, Ramanuja says, he gives the definition for who is a Seshi, who is the servant. Paragata Atishaya Adhana Ichaya Upadeyatvam Eva Yasya Swarupam Sa Seshaha Para Sheshi. The one who exists solely for the purpose of being useful to another person. This one who is existing only to be a servant to someone else. That person is the Sesha. He is the servant. And that counterpart, that person for whose benefit he is existing, that is the Swami or that is the Seshi. So this is how Lakshmana always exists. He is completely a Sesha. Only the purpose in his life is Rama Seva. So that is what is the quality of Lakshmana. Now we said that when Hanuman came first, he came in the disguise of a sannyasi. Now, what he does after some time, after standing there for some time and talking, he gives up his disguise and he cannot hide his real identity. He tells that I am Hanuman, I am the minister of Sugriva and so on. Why is this? How did this happen? Why didn't he continue to talk as the sannyasi? Here the acharyas say that the minute he stood in front of Rama, right? When you stand in front of the Lord, all the papas get destroyed. All ideas of hiding something run away from your mind. All kinds of defects in you are removed. So now, of course, Hanuman doesn't have papa and Hanuman doesn't have any defects, but he had come there with the intention of being in disguise. He didn't want to reveal his real identity, isn't it? But the minute he stood in front of Rama, that desire of wanting to hide, that quality disappeared. So he couldn't do kapata. He couldn't try to cheat Rama. So now he was forced by the very act of standing in front of Rama, he was forced to speak the truth. Now, this entire episode in the Kamba Ramayana, Kambar describes it and he describes the thought process of Hanuman. The minute he sees Rama and Lakshmana, what does Hanuman think? He says, these are such radiant people. They are people who can never travel in the direction of Yamaloka. And he thinks that this person who is so radiant and so bright and Tejasvi, this has to be Narayana. And he is the one who is going to destroy all our papas. Like that. Now, we know that when Hanuman was a small child, he thought the sun was a bright apple in the sky. And he had jumped up to eat the sun. Now, being scared at this act of Hanuman, Indra had hit him with his Vajrayudha. And when Indra hit him, this Hanuman fell down and he became unconscious and he got hurt. Then Vayu, who is the father of Hanuman, got very angry. He held his breath and he stopped circulating. And everybody started suffocating. So everyone went to Brahma. Then Brahma came to Vayu and pleaded with him and said, don't do like this. We will make sure that Hanuman is, he comes back and he has many gifts given to him. So like that, at that point of time, Brahma gave one gift to Hanuman. What was that blessing that Brahma gave? You will have Brahma Jnana. He blesses him. So at that time, this Hanuman asks him that how will I know who is Brahma? Brahman? Who is this Paramatma? Who is this? What is this jnana? How will I know who is the Lord? At that time, Brahma had told him that the minute you see the Lord, you will feel as if your hands and legs are melting. The minute you have that sensation, when you stand in front of somebody and you feel your hands and legs are all melting and you are completely dissolving out of your love for them, that will tell you that you are in the presence of the Paramatma. That is what is your Brahmajnana. Now, when Hanuman comes and stands in front of Rama here, he experiences this feeling. He feels his hands and legs and his entire body is dissolving and melting, and he feels that immense love welling up from within his heart. Now he realizes this is what Brahma had told me. So he realizes that this is the Paramatma himself, and this is the one for whom I have to be the eternal Bhakta. And from that moment on, till today, even now, Hanuman is there on this planet. Wherever Rama's story is told, it is said that he is there. In fact, here, when I'm telling you this satsang, we are doing this online, I have one small pita which I have kept, as is the norm, as we are told to keep. There is a small pita there, and every time before starting, we invoke the presence of Hanuman in this place. Because wherever Ram Katha is told, Hanuman will be there, full of bhakti, with tears flowing from his eyes, happily listening to that, and blessing the people who are listening, blessing the person who is telling, and so on. Now, we may think that this is so contradictory, isn't it? We think that if somebody has Brahma Jnana, somebody is having Vedanta Jnana, then they are very intellectual. Their intellect must be very strong and they are strong in that Jnana component. How is it possible that will they be so soft hearted that their body will melt? Will they be so emotional kind of person? Definitely, it can happen. When somebody is having the most supreme Brahma Jnana, at that point they realize what is the true nature of the Lord, and they will be very emotional in their connection with the Lord also. Here again, the acharyas, we know the example of Swami Ramanujacharya. We know what a great acharya Ramanuja was. He was called Jagadacharya. He was the epitome of all Vedanta Jnana, of all Brahma Jnana, isn't it? He had everything. And one day what happened, when he came to see the Lord Ranganatha at the Sri Rangam temple, he felt. See, please note, he is coming to see the Lord's Vigraha, right, in the temple. Now, when he came there, Ramanujacharya felt that Lord Ranganatha is looking dull appearance that day. So he questions the Archakas there. He says, what was served to the Lord? What Naivedya was offered to him? What was the food offered to him in today, in the afternoon? So at that point of time, one person comes forward and says that actually we offered curd rice that was offered to the Lord as prasadam today. And because it is season now, and the Lord, we know how Krishna likes those jamun fruits, isn't it? So since that was available, we offered that also to the Lord, he says. At that moment, Ramanujacharya is, totally shocked and he's surprised and he says, how could you do this? If you give somebody curd rice and you give them this jamun fruit together, definitely it will cause them to have a cold. And that is why Ranganatha is looking dull. So you should not have done like this. Never again do this combination. If you combine jamun fruits and curd rice, then that, like anybody else, the Lord also has got a cold now, he says. And then he orders that the person who is in the Dhanvantri Sannidhi should come there. The Vaidya of that temple should come there, prepare one kashaya, and he makes them prepare the kashaya and he offers that to the Lord. And he says, now the Lord will be fine after drinking this kashaya. Can we even imagine what is this strange behavior of Swami Ramanujacharya? To us, when we are seeing it with the intellectual viewpoint, what do we think? That is a vigraha after all. First of all, can you make out in a vigraha that there is some dullness or there is brightness? We can't make out, isn't it? Then, can you try and correlate a reason like this? Like human beings will get cold if they are served combination of curd rice and jamun fruits. Is it possible for something like that to happen to the Lord? But Ramanuja felt that. And then to treat that, like how you give kashaya to a person, Ramanuja offered kashaya to the Lord. What is this? This is the great love that Ramanuja had for Ranganatha. That is why he was able to see. See, on the one hand, he is a jnani, he is the epitome of all Brahma Jnana. And on the other hand, he is a great bhakta. So he has that extreme love for the Lord. Like how we said in the beginning, that vatsalya, that love of a parent to the child, that makes you worry and fret and think that, oh, something has happened to my child is fallen sick. With that same bhava, Ramanujar was able to relate to Ranganatha at the Sri Rangam temple. So this just shows us that the greatest of bhaktas, they always are melting in their heart with love of the Lord. The greatest of bhaktas are those who have complete jnana of all the attributes of the Lord, and yet they will fret over that Lord as if that Lord is their child who is going to get into trouble, and they have to be protecting the Lord. That will be their bhava. So we are blessed that we have such acharyas. We are blessed that we have somebody to explain all these things to us. We would never have been able to appreciate all these aspects of the Ramayana otherwise. So let us offer gratitude for that, and let us pray that the Lord's grace is there on us at all times. Mangalam Kosalendraya Mahaniya Gunabdaye Chakravarti Tanujaya Sarvabhaumaya Mangalam वेदवेदान्तवेद्याय मेघश्यामलमूर्तये पुंसां मोहनरूपाय पुण्यश्लोकाय मङ्गलम् पितृभक्ताय सततं भ्रातृभिः सह सीतया नन्दिताखिललोकाय रामभद्राय मङ्गलम् श्रीमते रघुवीराय सेतुलङ्घितसिन्धवे जितराक्षसराजाय रणधीराय मङ्गलम् मङ्गलाशासनपरैर्मदाचार्यपुरोगमैः सर्वैश्च पूर्वैराचार्यैः सत्कृतायास्तु मङ्गलम्. Thank you, everybody. We'll meet again tomorrow with what happens further. Namaskar.